Good morning and good afternoon. Dan Leaskar here from EON Reality. It's another version of the EON XR EdTech experience. I'm very honored and pleased to have today with me Dr. Mary Graham. Dr. Mary Graham was named the president of Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College in 2010. She's a native of Mississippi. She earned her PhD in higher education administration from the University of Southern Mississippi, USM. She also got her bachelor and master degrees at the same university. Dr. Graham, I'm really happy to have her because she's embracing the philosophy of community college and rich tradition of excellence in education. During her tenure as a president, the college has been recognized as a great college to work for and as the #1 community college in Mississippi by schools.com. The Aspen Institute ranked the college as one of the top 10 community colleges in the United States and recently named Gulf Coast a winner of the Excellence and Equity in Community College STEM Award. So you can imagine I'm very happy to have her. Appreciate your time. I know you're very busy. And I know you're on a little bit of a celebrity mode because you just inaugurated a large interactive digital center that was featured in the news, and I had a pleasure to see some of that this week, correct?
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
So Dan, thank you for that great introduction, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of this program today. I have so much to share, and I know we don't have a lot of time, and so looking forward to the conversation. I wanted, before we get started, to talk about the real context of what we want to get down to the nitty-gritty on. I want to tell you a little bit about Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College for those in the audience and folks that are listening, just to give you a little bit of idea of who we are and what we're about. We are in the very southern tip of Mississippi on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We serve 4 counties. We serve almost 20,000 students a year in the credit and non-credit realm. We do so much workforce training. We are sitting in the backyard of Ingalls Shipbuilding. They build about 70% of the Navy ships for the United States. And so we do, as you can imagine, a lot of work with them. We were just named this week as a Maritime Center of Excellence by the federal government. So there was one of only 27 of those that were named this year. So we're excited about that and the work that we're doing in the maritime industry. We have about 1,000 employees that work at Gulf Coast Community College. We have 10 locations. They're not all full-fledged campuses, but the majority are. And the unique thing about Gulf Coast, Dan, and I think you know this, but we actually have 1,000 beds of dormitories on one of our campuses. We have 10 athletic sports programs, a 250-member band. So we have some very traditional locations and some very non-traditional locations. We are autonomous. We have our own board of trustees. Mississippi has 15 community colleges, and each of those 15 have their own autonomous board, which we're very happy about, which allows us to do things in a very quick and expeditious manner, as in purchasing, and buying into a partnership with EON. So our board's super excited about that, but we have a 23-member board. So I have 23 bosses.
Wow.
I have 23 individuals that I work with every day. We work within the scope of a $140 million budget, which sounds really great, but about $50 million of that is pass-through dollars going to financial aid for our students. So we do a lot of financial aid. We have 56 career and tech programs, and the institution's been around 112 years.
Wow.
So we're quite an old institution. But let's talk a little bit about our partnership with you guys. And Dan, you guys have been amazing. It was so good to see Matt's in person at our EON Virtual Reality Lab opening. I want to talk a little bit about that program, but you're right. We did enjoy a little bit of celebrity for just like a 3-second spot on the news about our new EON Lab. We are one of the first community colleges in Mississippi. There are actually 2 that'll be working with EON, but Mississippi Gulf Coast is one of the first to open our virtual reality lab.
You are the first.
We just, we have about 20 students, 18 to 20. I think we're at 18 now, students in the gaming simulation design program right now. They started in May. It's a one-year accelerated program. So they are learning all this great technology so they can go out then and help business and industry get fantastic jobs. I mean, we're so excited about the job opportunities. So the good news is we, about a year before COVID, we launched into the planning and design of a new strategic plan, Dan, and we call it Strategic Plan Accelerate 2030. Now, the viewers are thinking, how in the world would you do a 10-year plan, for a community college? And we wanted a long ball vision, but the plan is designed around 3-year increments. We call them, very strategic increments, because we feel like every 3 years as technology develops and things happen in the world, you have to reassess every 3 years. And so it's a 10-year plan with 3-year increments. It happens to align with our SACS accreditation. So we're able to pull the data and look and assess and look at the accountability measures of everything we're doing every 3 years. So we developed that and we launched in fall of 19. Okay. And then boom, COVID hit the next semester. And so
that's all right.
Yeah. So a lot of what we had in the plan, we had to fast forward on. Which is exciting because it's a fluid plan. It was intended to be fluid, very flexible. There are 4 components of the plan, Dan. Teaching and learning, obviously we're a community college. That's our primary focus. Student experience, engagement and partnerships, and institutional excellence. And so while we were developing this plan and working with business and industry and surveying our community and all of our constituents, the one thing that we wanted to identify were all of the transformational trends that we needed to address in our strategic plan. And so the one that resonated quite loudly was emerging technology. And so fast forward our partnership with you guys, knowing that we wanted to get in that space. We'd already started one of the first, well, there's only 2 simulation centers in nursing in the state of Mississippi, and we have one of those. It's actually an accredited simulation center. We did that long before COVID, thank goodness, but we already had a toe in the water, if you will, on simulation. We also began putting into place, because all the constituents I'm sure that are listening know that if you're SACS accredited or if you're accredited institution, it takes about a year to move through the process of starting a new program. So we know we wanted to start simulation and game design. I know we at that time began to have conversations with your organization to say, what kinds of things, how do we want to build this curriculum? What kinds of things do we want to incorporate? And so again, pre-COVID, we were moving in this direction. Boom, COVID hits. We don't really have the funding mechanism. And I will tell you, the viewers, that about 30% of our funding comes from state funds, but about 38% come from tuition and fees. Yep. So as a result of COVID, as with the rest of the nation, some of our enrollment dropped off. So we were really challenged with our goal to invest in this new technology. And I have to tell you, you guys were just so wonderful to work with in that respect. And I will tell anyone who's interested in partnering with EON, we went back and forth, for 6 months trying to decide how to fund this thing. And we ended up, thank goodness, able to use some of our CARES dollars, and that worked out beautifully. So we, long story short.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we do want to thank the governor's office for that. Thanks to your initiative, they've been very, very helpful. So I would like to put that out there.
As with any community college leader, we had to cobble together a lot of different resources to do that. So we did get a grant from the governor's office, as you said, but the CARES money was helpful. So we did invest in this technology. Again, we didn't know the pandemic was going to fast pace everything we had in our strategic plan. And so we jokingly say within 6 to 8 months, we purchased 3 years worth of technology. So it was interesting. But nevertheless, you never want to waste a great crisis. It was a great opportunity to move the institution forward in a very quick and rapid way. Our folks are exhausted, by the way. from working so hard, as millions of people are. So, but with these kinds of things, if you have a good plan in place, it's really a matter of securing the funding to move the vision forward. And so we already knew we wanted to go in this direction. We'd done a lot of research. We've done a lot of, surveying of our business and industry leaders. We knew they were wanting to go in this direction. They were looking at different entities to help with this virtual reality space of training. And so we wanted to be the entity they leaned in to do this. So we wanted to make sure we got on board ahead of time. We wanted to be an early adopter, not a late, adopter to this technology. Go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but what I find exciting, because I as you know, I've been working with this for 22 years within EON and 36 years in my career. And what I find very exciting with the partnership with you is that it's not just the few students that are becoming great gaming experts, but it's a democratic approach where you have are implementing this to the entire community college. We talk about up to the 15,000 students. And one thing that you did that was excellent is to train, almost all your faculty members in the platform.
Right.
So the way we see this, you are part of the future where this technology is not viewed as something remarkable that you have to go to only a single place where this is happening on a pedestal, right? It is something that's used on any laptop, any PC, any mobile device, in a daily life. And I know many don't like this comparison, but I want to look at it as PowerPoint, right? In the end, that you use it for your homework, you use it to communicate, you use it as a way to explain. And what I see a great opportunity with you is that you have that hands-on need, right? Because there is a saying that Confucius said is my favorite. I hear, I forget, I see, I remember, I do, I understand. So especially if the type of programs that you offer, the I do, I understand part is very, very important. And obviously, it's impossible to have a ship in your classroom, right? It's not feasible, but you can correct this technology. So the democratization aspect is something that I would like to highlight that you have embraced.
Sure, I'll talk. Yeah. No, please interrupt. This is a great conversation. And what we were able to do, we call it our EON Elite Forces. That's what we term these individuals that we trained in this technology, because you're right. Initially, we set out to purchase this so that we could stand up training for business and industry. Well, we have an amazing team of faculty, and they were very interested in this technology. And so you used some analogies earlier, but to simplify our thought process on XR, this is our thought process. Years ago, reading across the curriculum became the standard, writing across the curriculum. We're considering XR across the curriculum because every faculty member wants to understand and learn this technology. And as you said, I don't want to simplify it, but you don't have to be a coder. You don't have to know those, that detail, that level of you don't have to have that level of expertise. Even I can learn this. So we trained this elite group of individuals, the EON Elite Forces, if you will. They have now reached into their classrooms. We have language arts instructors who, if they have a writing assignment, an informational writing assignment, then they take their students on a tour of the rainforest. They take their students on a tour of the Parthenon. So, and then they write about it. So they actually are able to do things that never in the world were you able to do with students from rural South Mississippi. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
I have a little surprise for you, and I'm sorry to do that to you, but I actually, through Jamie, got access to some of those lessons that students have created. So with your permission, later on, I will share it with the audience to see. And I was amazed at what they were able to achieve in such a short time span. So quite exciting. We'll get to that in a second. Listen, I'm an engineer. So as engineers, we like problems. And we like to solve problems. We find a problem, we solve it. So I can't resist to to ask questions around challenges, right? So tell me a little bit about what are the main challenges that you see today in education from your perspective, and what do you see the possibility to solve some of these challenges that you face? Thank you.
It's interesting you asked that, because again, we addressed some of those challenges in our strategic plan. I don't want to tie everything back to the strategic plan, but in order to move forward, you really have to be grounded in a really good plan. And so the things we identified and the things I completely agree with, what we're facing in Mississippi, and I feel like it's a national trend, are the blurred lines of education. Community colleges are kind of strategically placed in the middle of K through 12 and universities. And so we have well over 1,000 students who are dual enrolled with us in collegiate academy courses or dual credit classes. And so that line between high school graduation and community college or university, that's blurred. And we're trying to provide those services. And then on the other side, the universities, and this isn't a nationwide trend, but it's happening in Mississippi, and I'm thrilled about it for our students. Universities who never would before take our career and technical transfer credits now will allow those to come in and count toward a bachelor's degree. And so they've opened the door. So we're kind of strategically positioned to be the middleman, if you will. So the blurring lines are challenging because we are becoming all things to all levels of education. They lean in on us, and then business and industry is that next, that third leg of the stool coming to us for support and training. So it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity, Dan, and that's how we see it. So we have to prepare ourselves in a very important way. We have to delve into the resources, like the resources your company's providing us, to be able to do those kinds of things, because we're not dealing with place-based. We're everywhere all the time now. Of course, demographic shifts, we can talk about generational differences.
Yeah.
We serve
sorry,
different.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I cut you off. It's this delay here.
That's okay.
So you said the generation differences. How are students different today if you compare with, let's say, 10, 20 years? Are they different?
Well, I'll just say I'm glad that we didn't have iPhones when I was growing up in terms of videoing and social media and all that. You don't want all that. Some things don't need to be videoed. So it's very different. Students are living in an instantaneous world. They have access to so much information that a lot of it's not retained. And, it's constantly, it's like a fire hose of information. They're constantly getting it. The great news is people can learn anything, anywhere, anytime, if they have a desire to do that. The tools are out there. So I think that students expect a lot of convenience. They expect to do things quickly. They want to move through things very quickly. They want access immediately. They want all the technology and all the tools available, and we try to provide those. So they're just, and the interesting thing is we may have a 65 or 70-year-old in the same class with us.
Yeah, that was my question, right? How do you address so different, generations?
Right.
Ask,
Well, our faculty are amazing. We give them the skills and the tools, prepare them for those different generations. And so what we find ourselves is the older students, the baby boomers, if you will, we're kind of pulling them up to learn the skills and to enjoy the tech. That's me too. Enjoy the technology that's making learning convenient, if you will, and accessible. So we try to lift them up, and we try to just a little bit slow the new Gen Y, Gen X, slow them down a little bit so that they actually are retaining the information that we're helping them, with. So it's a challenge. You have to have really versatile instructors. And so faculty are the key, and the tools we give them help.
Yeah, now talking about the tools, let me just, I promised to show you something here. So here it comes. Let's see if I can get the technology to work. you'll be able to see something momentarily. Bear with me 1 second. Yes, I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you can see it. Do you? And you have that little effect. Okay. Do you want to say that now?
I can.
Perfect. So Jamie helped me put together this, and I think I will start actually, if you don't mind, with a little video that we captured from the news announcement, if that's okay for the audience.
Sure.
Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College held a ribbon-cutting ceremony today to unveil their new interactive digital center. The center features both a virtual reality innovation academy and hub for advanced extended reality solutions.
Sorry, I was trying to close. I apologize.
Reality, virtual reality, and extended reality technology and software will allow MGCCC to provide training for their students and industry partners that will increase efficiency and reduce both costs and risks. Classes in simulation and game design technology will begin this summer.
We purchased this EON Virtual Reality software for our students so we could start a program called Simulation and Game Design. We have today 18 students who will finish within a year. They'll be programmers, developers, game developers. They'll go out into the workforce. They have a great opportunity, a great job opportunity waiting for them. It's a high demand field.
With this technology, you can do virtually hands-on lab using your mobile device or your computer at home and get this engaging experience. So that's one aspect. There's also lots of studies out there that show that if you work in 3D and XR, you actually learn things better, you remember longer, and you can make better decisions as you come out in the field and work.
The job market demand for augmented reality, virtual reality, and extended reality engineers has grown by 1,400% in the last year for many sectors, including industrial automation, aerospace, and healthcare.
Okay, so I think Matt's and you put it very well, but let's move into some of the examples that I've seen, and I had a chance to glance at those examples. And what we see here is exactly what Matt was talking about, that students are using this in multimodalities, so they're using it on their phones. In a model, they use what we call a 3D instruction, so someone is actually guiding, the teacher can record.
Which are typically arranged in a triangle.
So basically through a process, but you can then also shift to augmented reality, where they can go through the same experience, but now even life size or even bigger than life by having those experiences exposed. I know that you haven't seen those, so any thoughts or reactions based on what you see so far? And I'll try to flip them fairly fast. Go ahead, please.
It's so exciting, Dan. I mean, this is exactly the kind of thing we had hoped for. Putting the tools in the hands of the students, give them the skills they need, and our faculty as well. So they're creating a great product.
Thank you. And, teachers during this period have complained that they have to change everything overnight, and they have to learn a new technology like Zoom, and they have to change all the curriculum. And meanwhile, sometimes students were pure recipients of, lectures and knowledge and things. What I think, and what I've seen with your students, is that the teacher can actually give them assignments, right? What better way to learn than learn by doing? And they comprehend, let's say it's a DNA class, teach about the structure, and they have to provide and create a lesson themselves and present that lesson and show their mastery. And one interesting effect that I've seen, and this is not only in Mississippi but throughout the world, is that initially they are a little bit skeptical, because their comment is, do you want me, don't you think I have enough on my plate? Like, I'm doing this, and now you want me to do virtual augmented reality? Also, forget about it. I'm not going to do that. But then when they discover that this is a little bit like the Karate Kid, it's the opposite effect. They give them assignments and they actually lift off the burden. The students cannot put on mute and watch TikTok at the same time. They have to engage. And the system actually shows when they engaged, how long time they engaged, what the outcome of that engagement was, and ultimately how good the lesson is. And so I think once they see that, then we get all the faculty members with us. And this method was originally developed, it's pioneered by our Chief Chief Learning Officer, Dr. Peter Luker, and was pioneered by MIT, is to get what they refer to as self-directed learning, experiential learning. So I think that's something that I like to see, and it's always amazes me when then this theory is applied in practice. By the way, that's Pantheon. So I love Italian ice cream. I have this dream. So I'm sitting in the piazza having this gelato in Italy. And then I have always this dream, because I'm fascinated by archaeology. Wouldn't it be wonderful to create a movie which is 1 second for every year since this place was built, to see the changes around the piazza and to see what's happened? And that dream is with a new version that we are coming out, by the way, the 15th of June 9.0. I'm putting the champagne on chilling right now for the biggest celebration we ever had in terms of developing. That it will actually become a reality. So
really?
Yeah. So we will be able to rebuild basically past time. Of course, it's going to be an animation, an approximation based on, but it's going to be done with historical archaeological data. So it's not just a Hollywood movie, so to speak. It's going to be. So that's something that we can do. And if you are keen, I will actually have a few slides later on, maybe towards the end, to show you what's new. Because if you like what you've seen so far and the students enjoy it, you're going to be very excited about the future. It's we just had an hour interview with our developers that have been working night and day for the better part of a year on this new release. So it's very excited about that. And again, it's the same trend of democratization. We are going actually a step further. Yesterday night, I was playing with using my phone to scan real data from the real life. So we expect students to actually not only create interaction or use the 1.1 million libraries, but also to be more of a creator from let's say, the base, whether it's a 360 or 3D. And in that context, actually, let's do it right now, because I have other exciting questions for you in a second. Let me spend, while I'm on the go, so to speak, share you a little bit what's happening with the next version. Is that okay?
Certainly.
Okay. So first of all, everything that you learned about us with regards to the ability to do, serve any device is going to continue. So we actually are expanding the devices. So we support today any iPhone, any tablet. We are now supporting Chromebook, Mac, Apple. Mac has been a big request, but also all the other type of devices. So we need to be cognizant of the fact that most users still today only have mobile devices or PCs or Macs, right? So they don't have those fancy headsets. So the idea, everything you see here, even in this environment, it enables them to do it without having to purchase any hardware, right? So that is, for example, what you see with the students here when they collaborate with each other in a miniature way, and you have a third participant that perhaps is, in another location or a company. Or you're very familiar with this feature that has been around for a long time, and the ability to shift modalities. So you go from mobile to augmented reality to virtual reality, and you're also familiar with the same capacity to use your phone as a means. But on top of that, what we're doing now is that we are expanding to many other of the new devices. I don't know if you know, but there's a $1 trillion war at the moment, and that's not a secret, between our partners, who's going to win the hardware, the next generation computing platform, right? Whether it's Magic Leap or, and we obviously support them all, and we hope there will be many winners. I don't know if you read that Microsoft just got the $21 billion order from the US Army to revamp this device. Actually, this is HoloLens 2. Oculus, now 10,000 workers do nothing else than research in VR and AR. So it's very nice to work with these folks for that. Now, the most perhaps important thing in terms of focus is that we still continue with our commitment to have, we're up to 1.1 million assets access, which is quite a lot. We still are very much focused on the ease of use, and that's where we made one of the biggest changes in terms of making it, what I like to say, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. If you make it so that we don't discourage anyone that maybe thinks PowerPoint is complicated to use this and to create content. And I think that's a key. No code, it's a little bit of our mantra, so to speak. But what I'm excited about is also the unbelievable visual quality. And here I have a question for you. If you look at this image, which of those are real and which are not? One object there is not real. Could you guess which one it is? Is this one, that one, this one, that one, that one?
They all look real.
Okay, let's see what happens. So that's, you see the shadows, shadow effects, the reflections, and you can put them in context also. You don't have to keep them. So I was last weekend on the street, and I said, I need to try that. I always dreamed, by the way, to dissect the fish without getting my fingers dirty. And now we can also do animations and things like that. So all that is possible to do. And I'm not going to bore you with all this because we need to continue, but just 2 or 3 more things. One of them being the ability to scan data, right? So use your phone to scan in a realistic way. And then the second one is when you actually have persistent tracking anywhere, even in the water if you want. And that's okay. That's basically what we're looking for. With that, I'll stop there because we need to continue the interview. And I have a question. How do you see this happening in the near future? What do you see the future looks like? Thank you.
Wow. I wish I had a crystal ball, but what I do have is a sense of, you mentioned the technology being simplified. For so many years, only a few people had the skills to utilize this amazing technology. Over the years, as it's progressed, it's gotten more simple. People aren't intimidated by it. They're not afraid of it. Thus, our EON Elite Forces of our faculty, we have language arts people using it and math instructors using it who in the past would have said, look, I don't have time to learn that technology. But now they've embraced it because of your KISS methodology. They've embraced it and they see it as a valuable tool. And so what we're seeing is we have faculty coming to us rather than us telling them, hey, you need to learn this. They're asking to be a part of that elite force. They want to incorporate it into their classroom. So as I look out in terms of the crystal ball, I see even more simplification because that's kind of the nature of technology. It gets easier and easier and easier as it gets more widespread. And I see that it will become the norm in every classroom, in K through 12, in university, in business and industry. And so I think we're playing a critical role in training people to use this technology so then they can go out and train the masses. So I see it as becoming the norm. I think it, Matt's mentioned at the ribbon cutting that you had like 1.5 assets in your library and it was moving quickly to 2 million within a year or so. So that's really cool. So y'all are building your assets as well. So, and we want to bring all those into our institution.
Thank you.
So.
We actually want to democratize this so the assets are owned by the users, right? Every morning I wake up and more and more assets. So the ability, for example, I was doing that last night. So I went around in my living room and I used my phone to capture various artifacts that I collected throughout the world. And I just used my phone and I rotate it around it and poof, it pops up in 3D. It looks super realistic. And then I bring it into the platform and I can create my narration, right? Because I tell this detail here and I point to it. And actually, it's not a video. It's actually an augmented reality 3D guided experience and all the annotations. So you're right. And I also think that, you know, I'll be honest with you. I'm 58, so I'm getting at the age then you start to think a lot of exciting things will happen in front of you, but a lot of things are now behind you. So you get a perspective of life. And I was fortunate enough to select simulation when I started my career after taking my master's, originally with rockets and eventually building simulators for aircrafts, right? And I remember when we started a career, they cost around entry price $50 million for a simulator for landing aircrafts in water safely, simulated, obviously. And I see what's happened over these 36 years, and now I can do that on a phone. I cannot do the motion platform, but in terms of visual quality and what it is. So it's been a long journey, and to be honest, much longer than I ever expected. If you asked me 22 years ago when we started EON, I would say this will come in 2 years, maximum. Maximum 2 years, everybody will use it. And in fact, they did during .com. It was something called Web 3D, but then .com crashed. So we've seen this industry going up and down and up and down for the last better part of 20 years. There was a huge spike, 2007, around something called Second Life. I don't know if you ever came in contact with that. And then 2008, we got the crash. There was a big spike. 2010, when 3D TVs came and that crashed. There was a big crash in 2017, actually, as late as 17, when everybody was saying, overestimating the potential, because the potential is very clear, but they underestimated the practical things. Very much the same as the .com era. If you remember, there were .com everything, but then a few of them, and everybody said when they crashed, I never believed in that. It was all brick and mortar. And look, today, a few of them survived, like small companies like Amazon and Google and Facebook, and essentially own the world. And I see the same thing happening now with VR. After the crash, we were one of them that survived. And now the last 2 years has been just amazing. I feel like a kid in a candy store. And now when the big players are putting all their might onto this, right? If you see a gentleman like Zuckerberg saying, I'm going to use all my profits from Facebook to invest in virtual augmented reality. Apple does even more, although they are very secretive about it. So what I expect is this technology within 2 or 3 years, we start to see the migration from having a phone that we flip through to having something that injects in our brain. I mean, we have glasses, they are light, they are always with you, and they are irresistible. Because you can see in the dark, I mean, everything that we do, if you get a little tipsy, they help you guide you home. I mean, they do everything for you. So not having them, I predict in 10 years, will be a psychotic experience, right? Because look at just at your phone, and that's a very primitive experience. You are getting dependent on that. Imagine that you are used to enhance every aspect of your life. And that's what I think is interesting. But that will put a big challenge on education. We have already a challenge, in my humble opinion, education today, when we look at, Google. Why would I listen to a professor when I can just Google it, right? And I get it instantly. Why would I bother my brain with retaining that information when I can access it? So you think that's bad? Wait until it knows where you are, who you are, what you want before you want it, and it gets it to you. So then the role will be, I think, be a little more like Karate Kid. You don't teach someone knowledge or facts. You teach them how to solve problem, and I think that's where perhaps, I don't know, virtual reality can play an important role, because it allows you that sandbox. The way I look at it, for many teachers, it's nothing else than a sandbox. It's still the teachers as the master. But he has a new toolkit, a new paintbrush that can use this in an efficient way. Sorry, I get carried away, but I'm obviously thinking a lot about this. But all my thinking is highly theoretical, and rubber doesn't meet the role until we engage with someone like yourself. So with that, I will go back to my question. So, do you have any questions for our audience, something that you would like to convey, or something you want to share, not question, but a statement about your experience, or some advice if they consider to use a technology like VR, about the journey of getting there?
I think it's important with any large investment that you make, any transition that you make in your learning resources that you provide for your employees, your faculty, that you do your research, that you work with a well-established company, because there are a lot of folks out there that want to get into this space. And, you know, we jokingly say we want to be on the cutting edge, not the bleeding edge, Dan. So don't ever want to work with a company that helps us bleed. We want to make sure we're just strictly, you know, on the cutting edge of this new technology. And so I think with the pandemic, you talk about people were slow to adopt this technology over the past few years, and now it's warp speed. And I think that's largely in due part to the pandemic. Had we not had access to, and no one wants to do another Zoom meeting or another WebEx meeting, but think about the past year. If we had not had those tools, we would have all gone silent.
Yeah.
So as bad as we, you know, hated those meetings and hated utilizing that technology, there's a new appreciation for those types of technology and the need for that. And I think XR, you know, the whole package, I think people are now saying, okay, I can do that. I understand it. I see there's a need for it. This is the future of education. It's the future of workforce. And so I think that people are a little more appreciative of the technology and want to go ahead and invest. And we've done that. You know, our first approach, or our first toe in the water, if you will, with this was in working with business and industry. You know, usually they're out there and then they're coming back to us saying, if we had this, if we only had access to this. And I feel like as leaders of the institution, we had to figure out a way to provide it, whatever that way was. And so the great thing is we're working with those partners and they're helping us help them with this technology. So we're excited. At the ribbon cutting, it was interesting, and I think Matt's heard this as well. We had business and industry in the audience saying, we want to be first. We want to be first on your list to get this. We want to hire all your graduates. I had a call yesterday from a company. We want to hire at least half of the graduates in this program when they finish in a year.
Wow.
So, I mean, they already have job opportunities. So I think the word to the wise is prepare yourself for the unexpected in planning, and work with great partners to understand the technology you're about to, you know, move into or adopt, and make sure they're there alongside you, because you guys have walked with us for about 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
And to help us understand, help us determine the best way to implement, to help us work through the curriculum for our program we're starting for students. So it made a difference to have that level of expertise in the areas we did not have. And so it much appreciated. And we're still feeling like it was an investment. Our board's excited about it. We did a demonstration similar to what you showed that our students had done for our board. I mean, it was a sizable investment and they had to understand what we were doing. And so they're excited about it. So I think all of that together, the world is changing very rapidly. I too am 58, Dan.
Yeah.
So we
don't look the age, you know, men age fast and die quicker. So you have and I don't know how you could do that with your stressful job and your achievements. So it's the magic, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I must say, I thank you first of all for those comments. And I would say this, yes, it's a journey, and we are embarking on a long journey together. It's a 5-year journey to start with, and hopefully it's going to last our careers. We're very honored to be with you on this journey, and I think we are the crazy techies. I'm probably the highest representative of that. I get carried away and very naive sometimes. And Matt is more grounded. He's always, you know, you can see why we work too well together. But
it's a good balance.
Yeah, but without you and without partners like yours, it wouldn't be possible. So I know, Dr. Graham, that you have a busy day in front of you, and I'm very grateful for spending time with us and our audience. I want to thank you. We could chat perhaps for another hour or so, but I think it's a great point to end our discussion and obviously continue the dialogue outside this webinar for many years to come. So once again, thank you so much for your time. All the best to your students and a speedy recovery in the post-pandemic era. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.